But I will intro us in and say,
Hold
what's
on.
up? What's up? Oh, God.
I'm not recording. I'm not
No,
recording.
I'm recording. What's up, folks? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name is Trevi. I'm here with Sung, and a very exciting thing just happened. Literally 10 minutes before we were making this video, the entire 9th edition core rulebook was leaked on Imgur. And we're gonna read it. So we got some hot takes going in. Beyond the spoilers and some light browsing, neither of us have read this book at all. So we are gonna hilariously overreact to everything that we see on these hallowed pages, and for your enjoyment, and hopefully we're informative also.
Yeah, that's the hope. And then just if you people bear with us, this is obviously like a hot take reaction. Like Trevi said, there's going to be things we miss. Like neither of us are very good at reading.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even know how.
Yeah, this is hard. I normally read in Braille. So
That must be an issue on a computer.
no, that's cool, man. I got one of those 3D printers. It prints out the words for me.
Wow, that is expensive. So it starts with the movement or the battle round summary, it looks like, and this is a page that we saw spoiled already. This is a new phase, command phase, and then movement, psychic, shooting, charge, fight, morale.
Well, psychic did change, right?
The phase. Well, no, the order of the phases didn't.
Oh, correct. I'm sorry. I didn't understand what we were doing. I'm with you now.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
so
a great
we're
video.
just gonna go page by page. Then we go down to the command phase, which talks about the new Battleforged CP roll, where we get a CP at the start of every command phase. We saw that already, right? I don't think there's anything new here. There's a very cool interrogator chaplain, though.
Yeah, he looks pretty
with,
sweet.
with some glare on him, but that's okay.
Yeah, he's green. We'll call him a
He's-
salamander.
Is he a salamander? No, he's a dark angel.
don't
Get
know.
out of here! He's got a dark angel thing on his knee pad. What do you call that? A knee pad.
It's very glary. I can't see that.
It's extremely glary. Yeah, well, this has turned into a lore corner. Little did you know, listeners, that the sword with angel's wings is the dark angel symbol. There was no way for you to find that out. But that's why we're here to tell you.
You know what? I'm just going to mention this now. If you're a GW playtester who has loose morals about leaking things, let me know and I will buy you a scanner so that you do not have to take pictures of every page. I will just let me know. No questions asked.
I don't think it's the playtesters that are leaking these. I think it's usually like warehouse people. That's why it's
fine. If you're a warehouse person with loose moral stands, let me know. I'll buy you a scanner.
Plug a scanner into the break room at your work there, bud, and then
It'll be like stealthy. Like we'll build it into a backpack. No one will even notice. But like
the Mission Impossible theme is playing while you're sneaking out your copy of Indominus. Yeah.
Yeah, we're here to help you help us. That's all I want you to know right now. If you're a warehouse worker who leaks things and you need a scanner, you let me know.
Yeah. So we're off to the movement phase. Movement looks like for the most part isn't changed, but I think the wording is a little bit cleaned up here. When you move, you select one unit in your army. You can do a normal move, advance, remain stationary, or fall back if it's engagement range of an enemy. They do specify that the movement phase when you're moving a model is now the point of the turn in which you can reposition parts of the model. So that was, I think, in 8th edition, that was a little nebulous, and I definitely gave some weird looks to people who would like try to rearrange the parts on their pylon like during the shooting phase to try to get line of sight to things. But they've nipped that right in the bud. None of that.
Definitely some like clean up quality of life things here. Like I like the clear classifications of the movement that are happening. So good stuff here. No real complaints.
Also, important to note, I think it looks like they've removed the model being over the edge of the battlefield, and that has changed to the model's base. Can't overlap the edge of the battlefield.
Yeah, that's pretty big too. Also, you can't fall back and manifest psychic powers.
It's not in the movement phase, but we will cover that.
Well, they describe that in the movement phase because it talks about falling back, but that's fine.
Oh, do they? Ooh, there you go. And that's about it. So then we go to the reinforcement step, after the movement phase is completed. Very exciting. There's a whole suggestions for open play missions, which is a whole lot of words that we can skip, so that's good. And then we go into Description of the different types of movement. Any changes that you notice here, Sam?
The biggest one, like I said, was the fallback in Psychicking.
Yeah, that is a big deal, and it was honestly, it was kind of weird that the psychic tests. It didn't matter what you did previously; you just do them all the time. Like casting magical spells and saying magic words and all that stuff doesn't require any concentration at all. You're just something that happens automatically, which always felt a little odd. So I kind of like that change actually, even though it kind of screws my army a little bit.
I think it's great. Yeah, and again, I just really appreciate the cleanup they did to the movement phase now. And now I get what you're doing. You're literally going page by page.
I'm going down the gallery.
When you said we're going to go page by page, I didn't get it. In execution now on page 207, now I'm with you.
Yes. Yeah, we're doing it. Oh, God, 207? There are 206 pages prior to the movement phase?
Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Cool. So now we're moving over terrain, which is good. I don't think this existed in 8th edition, this section.
No, it didn't. But like terrain rules were so nebulous in general in 8th edition. Like I think for all functional purposes they didn't exist. But
yep.
It's cleaned up. It talks about you can't end on things. It defines what you can and cannot.
It also says you cannot move through walls. I don't know if that's going to be I haven't looked at the terrain section at all, so I don't know if there's any if the breachable keyword allows you to do that. But there you go. You cannot go through walls, maybe, which is a big deal.
Yeah, I wonder if they define wall later on, or if it's just a term they throw out.
Yeah, well, we did see that breachable keyword, which I speculated was the 8th edition ruins rule, which the infantry could move through them without penalty. But we'll find out later in this video. Stay tuned.
Yeah, you're getting ahead of ourselves again. That's on page 408.
Yep. And it does seem like it's been clarified a little bit, sort of how multi-level terrain would work, because you do move over. You climb up walls. So instead of sort of just magically teleporting to the next floor of a building or something like that, you actually have to be up against the wall and then climb vertically. Is what the rules make it sound like, which is I think how it was meant to be played, but was a little nebulous in 8th.
Yeah, and something that in Tabletop Simulator, which a lot of you Technical Tortoise listeners do, Tabletop Simulator does not calculate it that way. They calculate it angularly. So just something else you have to keep in mind.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so you'd have to move up to the wall and then move it like literally vertically.
Correct. Yeah.
Flying models can be moved across other models and within the engagement range of enemy models. And ignore vertical distance. So that doesn't look like it has changed. Exciting.
Do they ignore vertical distance for charging?
It sure looks like it because, or it sure looks like it doesn't because, because it specifies the types of movement. So there you go. Easy peasy. They just built that clarification into the rules, which is good.
Yeah, actually, things like that I think are great, right? Anything that can remove these weird, like, we have so many just accepted house rules in 40k. I feel like for 8th edition that any of those we can just solidify. I think is great.
Yeah, for sure. We're over to reinforcements. Looks like the reinforcement rules are basically the same as 8th. The grand reinforcement clarification from the 8th edition FAQ, which was a mess. It looks like it's been built directly into the rules here. So reinforcements can't make moves, advances, or fallbacks the turn they come in for any reason, which was a rule in 8th, which a lot of people missed because it was sort of buried in an FAQ. My first tournament ever, I built an entire list around moving things out of reserve, which is super illegal. So don't watch my video that I made on that. Definitely ignore that video.
You could remove the video.
I could, but Yeah, so much
no
work.
looking back. You're forward looking back.
Yeah. Likewise, we have transports. There's a big change to transports here. It looks like a unit has to be complete or wholly within 3 inches of a transport model when it disembarks, so you don't get the extra distance of your base. That also means that units with large bases will be more difficult to transport around. I already kind of ran into this issue when playing Hiveguard, because the Tyrannocyte rule specifies wholly within, and it's Hiveguard have a huge base, and so it's very difficult to place them all when you come in from a Tyrannocyte. But it looks like that's every transport now.
Yeah, which is I don't know if that's something I was really missing or needing.
I think it's good. I think the just within verbiage for the old disembarkation rules were always very strange. They felt weird. Because the size of your base would then matter for like how far away from the transport you could be. It never really jived, and I think making it so that it's more difficult to set up those units and transports is going to be important because as we're seeing more and more as 8th edition nears the end, transports I think are extremely powerful, and especially the new stuff that's been released is seeing a ton of play. You know, we see Sororitas with 3 rhinos in every single list. We're seeing impulsors everywhere, and that extra inch or so of threat range that transports sort of accidentally give you, I think mitigating that is a good move.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. Like I said, it wasn't on my. If you were to ask me, hey T, make a list of things you'd like fixed in 9th edition, this would not have made the list. Like I'm not against it. I just like it's fine. That one gets a little bit more movement. So
yep.
It will be like I said, it'll be curious to see. I do agree with you. The transports look very powerful. I'm glad I own so many answers.
Yeah, fair enough. So similar to the other rules, destroy transports looks like remain exactly the same, and have included their old 8th edition FAQs into the rule. So that's all baked in now. So you can't overcharge your own plasma gun or combi plasma and blow up your own transport and then disembark with your dudes and charge with them. That's illegal. Get that jank out of here. I wonder if these pages are out of order because the transport rules are after the disembark rules.
Yeah, it looks a little weird, and then like the way they reference the page numbers in there doesn't quite make sense either. And again,
that's okay.
Let me know. I will buy you a scanner. We can just.
So I don't think the transport rules have changed. The embark rules, you just have to be within 3 inches of a friendly transport after an advance, normal move, or fall back. Could you advance an embark in 8th edition? I don't know if I ever saw anyone actually get onto a transport, so I don't know if it ever mattered, but that's interesting.
I didn't think you could, but if you told me you could, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
shocked, right?
Every time somebody used a transport on stream, I had to look up the transport rules in 8th ed, and I'm not going to lie. You can't embark onto a transport that's in engagement range of enemy models. I think that might be new as well. That's interesting. So if the transport is in melee, then you can't get into it. But if you're in melee, it doesn't look. I don't believe that you're affected. Oh no, you can't. You cannot embark if you're within engagement range. Never mind. Is that right? Well, no, I guess you wouldn't be able to because you can't remain stationary and embark. So you could never embark while you're in melee with someone. And also, if the transport's in melee with someone, then you cannot embark. There you go. We figured it out. Because you only embark after a normal move, advance, or fallback, and you can't do those while you're within an inch of enemies.
You could if you're flying, right?
No, you can just move within an inch of people, but you can't end within.
Yep,
yeah.
Nope, I'm with you. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we figured that out.
Looks like we're over here to aircraft here. That's fun.
Of course, that's how this book flows.
Yeah. So aircraft got a total revision in 9th edition, which is good because they were a confusing mess. And I think most of this stuff has been spoiled, so none of it is going to be a change. Basically, aircraft functionally are just a base that you can't end your movement on top of, but you can move within an inch of them, and you can ignore them basically for moving. They're flying above the table, and the area below them is just sort of a no-go zone, but anywhere around it you can go.
Yeah, I think it was just a cleanup here. They don't talk about what happens if you fly off the board just yet here, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. There's also a clarification for heroic pylons and interventions, specifically with aircraft, which means you ignore them. Sick.
Unless you're flying.
Unless you fly. That was always there was some weirdness in in 8th Ed, because an aircraft could run into you, and then you could intervene, and then like get into melee with them, and they couldn't consolidate or anything, so there's no way for them to pin you, and then you could just move 6 inches for free and fall back out later. Even if you didn't have flying, it was bizarre.
Seems fine.
Yeah. But it looks like that's gone, so sick. And we're in the psychic phase.
This is my favorite phase.
Is it?
No, I lied, but I was trying to.
You perils like 6 times every game.
Yeah, when I bring one psyker.
Yeah. So how did I perils every round? So big change is that you no longer can sequence your psychic powers however you want. You pick one psyker at a time, and they do all of their psychic powers. I love this because the other way didn't make sense and was very confusing. Especially if you're playing a list that had like 20 psychers, and you're playing against Thousand Suns, and every single model or Grey Knights or whatever, and every model can psychic like 2 or 3 times, and you're just like, I don't know what's happening. I just have to trust you. And now we are. Now we're just going ahead and doing it all one psyker at a time, which I think is good. Then you can just put a token next to them, say they're done, move over to the next one. Boom. Bob's your uncle.
Definitely, definitely gonna hurt some armies. Trevi kind of hit him on the head. It even hurt some Tyranid armies, right?
It's not even like a hurt though. Like it's. I mean, I guess like technically, like, it's strictly a nerf, but like it's not a nerf that matters. You know, like you can sequence things to make people deny like slightly less efficiently, but like who cares? Like they know what they're gonna deny the horror or the Symbiostorm anyway. Like that's what they're saving it for.
The bigger changes are things like changing Tide for Grey Knights, right? Any of the things that give your future spells buffs or rerolls that Chaos has access to. Those are the things that I think are impacted more, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to cast this one first because then I get a reroll, or I get to replace a die, right? Yeah. But now you have to finish that activation fully. Those things are the ones that get hit, right? Or rolling into Smite Tide and then back out.
Right. Like yeah. So there'll be things like, yeah, especially like double move stuff, like warp time and quicken may change because you can't like cast a spell with somebody and then quicken them and then cast a different spell somewhere else. So like that sequencing is gone. And Grey Knights are probably the worst hit here. But I'd have to put it on the table to see how much it matters because you just like you already have to have a pretty smart psychic phase to be a Grey Knight player. And this, I mean, honestly, this make it easier. But you just have to be smart about where you put your powers now, like which characters have them, and you can't just kind of go willy-nilly and cast everything you want. I think it's fine. It's whatever. It's going to clean the game up. It's going to speed things up. I think that's great.
Yeah, the next page, they just talk about perils and the psychic tests. I don't see any changes here.
Let's take a look. I have not read this page yet, so this is all new to me.
Yeah, this all looks the same to me.
I like that they've baked the Brotherhood of Psychos rule into Perils of the Warp. It used to be that it was a specific rule that when the sort of the Brotherhood model died, it wouldn't explode unless it was the last one, and they've just put that into the rule. But yeah, it looks basically the same.
Next, back to aircraft, of course.
Perfect. Thank you, Imgur Uploader. That's great. Yeah, so they have a minimum move. Some weirdness in 8th edition. I keep getting this question now that stupid AdMech got all their engine war buffs. What happens if you don't move an aircraft? And some people say they die. I say that's not legal because minimum move says you must move them. And if you can't, then they die. But if you have any legal placement, then you have to make it. But let's see what it says here.
It is interesting if a model's move character is modified and the minimum maximum move character is modified. I like that clarification. If a model cannot make its minimum move or its minimum move would result in any part of the model crossing the edge of the battlefield, then unless you're using strategic reserve rules, that model is removed from the battlefield and counted as destroyed. That's not what I thought happened in this edition.
Yeah, wow, that's different. Maybe there's a specific... Maybe you have to like make your minimum movement to the edge. So you can still trap aircraft on the table. Huh.
Well, and if they fly off the board, they get blowed up.
They did.
I thought that was changing in this edition.
That's what I thought too. Maybe we'll continue reading and we'll find some more interesting factoids about that. But yeah, sure looks like
not right now because it's time for the shooting phase.
Yep. Yeah, that follows. Where Perfect. Nice. You cannot select units that have advanced this turn to shoot. That makes sense. That's like a weirdness in the rules. Like I don't know why that's there. Just say that you can't shoot units that, like weapons that aren't assault weapons when you advance. It's bizarre that you can't select them to shoot. Because like rules is written, like there's no eligible timing to fire an assault weapon.
Yeah, they just don't work. Well, they don't work any different than like a really bad version of rapid fire with no rapid fire.
Right. Yeah. It's just you could just move and shoot with them. Like okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little weird. But I guess that's remaining in there. So thanks, G-Dub. You're the best. You've caught everything except for a glaring hole in your cool rules that make many units in the game unplayable. But that's fine. Don't worry about it.
So the further we get into this, like I'm happy to keep going in order, but these pages are definitely not in order.
Yeah, maybe we should try to sort it out a little bit more, for sure.
Because we go shooting phase, and then the next page literally talks about heroic interventions.
Perfect.
And then we talk about big game, guns never tire, and blast weapons. So I think if anything, we should talk about big guns never tire, blast weapons, and lookout, sir. All of those have been like fully spoiled on the Warhammer 40k community articles. I don't think there's any surprise there. If you're listening to this video, I'm sure you've actually seen the full list of weapons that are blast as of right now.
Oh no. Oh no, Tsung.
Whoops, I don't even know what page you're on.
True, I'm still reading Shooting Phaser, but
sorry, man.
True Line of Sight is still in this game.
Of course it is. That's not going to be right? We do that. We like Star Wars Legion, by the way. If you'd like to hear more Star Wars Legion content, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, hit us up for some sweet Star Wars Legion stuff, where they've learned what a silhouette is. That's cool. For the purposes of determining visibility, a model can see through the models in its unit. If you're unsure if a target's visible, get a look behind the firing model to see if the target is visible.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
We'll go with we'll get Shuma's sweet tactic out here, which is to put a mirror behind your opponent's army, and you can see through corners. See around corners now. Oh, you can see your unit.
You have a high gloss model. I can see.
Yeah. Oh my god. All right, so let's talk about big guns never tire for a little bit. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, it's great. Probably the best rule ever created. It's my favorite. One of us plays a gun line, the other one does not. You can guess who plays with.
I'm gonna be playing a gun line in this edition.
So
oh my god.
I get there's a lot in here, and let me break it down. I actually like the fact that vehicles can shoot while they're still tagged. I understand that it removed a lot of counterplay in the game, but at the same time, like it does feel bad, right? If you get tagged with a bunch of grots and your tank suddenly can't shoot, right?
It also feels bad for the grots when they die.
I mean, they're literally there to die. You never take grots and expect them to live through the entire game.
What if you get? Yeah, but like you touch with a knight, now you can just shoot it into death. Get out of here, idiot.
So I'm fine with that change. The big change that I wasn't expecting was the removal of the heavy weapon penalty. That to me was pretty crazy. And then the targeting rules were more lenient than I thought they were. The moving and shooting heavy weapon penalty.
Oh, for vehicles. Okay, yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a big freaking deal. Holy crap. They'll still get them if they are engaged, right? They'll still get -1 to shoot heavy weapons at stuff that they're in melee with, but that's it.
Correct.
They ignore the moving and shooting. Yeah. Also on this page we have Lookout Sir, the character rule, the new character rule, I should say, which is that you cannot shoot at a character with 9 or less wounds while it's within 3 inches of a friendly unit, unless it's the closest target. That's pretty cool. Sounds like a couple clarifications here. All you have to do is be within 3 inches of a unit, but the unit that you're within 3 inches of doesn't have to be the one obscuring you, right? So you can be 3 inches. You can be 3 inches in front of a unit, and as long as you have the scout squad and the L 60 inches away in front of you, even further, then you're screened. Basically, the character role hasn't changed except where, as long as you're within 3 inches of something, right?
Well, it also has the closest cause. So the model that is benefiting from Lookout Sir can't be the closest to the firing model.
Right.
So you can't screen with things behind you if you're also the closest, right?
Well, so what I'm saying, right, is that you cannot target a character unless it's the closest model, as long as it's within 3 inches of anything. Which means that if you have, so for example, if I have, I'll draw this on the screen. You can't see this, but I'm gonna draw it. So if I have a character model,
I think he's drawing a penis right now.
it may look like a penis, and there's a unit of dudes behind him, 3 inches behind him. Then in front of him, there's another friendly unit of dudes that is 12 inches away.
Correct. Yes, I agree with you on this demonstration. Yes.
There's those guys screen from you from an enemy that is closer to the dudes 12 inches away from you than the character, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a couple different ways if you want to shoot the character there. You can remove the 3-person unit. You can remove the unit that's at least 3 models within 3 inches of the character.
Yeah.
Or you could try to remove the models to make sure the character is the closest unit at that
Yeah.
stage. Those are the ways you could get around Lookout Sir. I think Lookout Sir is a great rule. I actually really, really like it. There were so many times that I or other people abuse that, and you end up with just like characters in your backfield who are like virtually immune to things, covering your objectives and things like that, where you pushed out with your entire army. So I think it's a good change.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of it.
And as long as you're within 3 inches of a friendly unit, you cannot be targeted by indirect fire, period, right? Things that aren't visible, that don't have you in direct line of sight, cannot target you at all. Because you have to be both visible and the closest enemy to the...
That was my reading of it, but that is not as black and white if they had made other things in this rule.
Well, it says that you have to be visible to the firing model. You know, if you're within 3 inches of another friendly.
Nope, you're right. Yeah, okay, I'm with you there.
Yeah. Yep. So if your Tech Marine gunner, doesn't matter where he is, he's standing next to his Thunderfire cannon. Your opponent's Thunderfire cannon will never be able to shoot him, basically.
Yeah. Victory.
Which is pretty good. Yeah, those Thunderfire cannons just got a lot better, I think, because you just get a 4-wound, 2-up save idiot to sit in your backline and keep all your psychers safe or whatever. Like, it just has to be in the middle of a little ring of characters, and none of them can be targeted for the most part. Amazing.
The price did go up.
It did go up. Well, I don't know if the price went up so much as they remembered to print a price for the stupid Tech Marine gunner.
No. The price went up.
In almost every game I played with my Space Marine army, that little idiot did more work than the stupid Thunderfire cannon did.
You are using the Thunderfire cannon wrong. I don't know
people
how
always
else
kill him. They kill him with the indirect, and then that little guy would come out and just like start burning their whole army down with his flamethrower.
Yeah, no one ever sees the Salamander Tactical Doctrine Tech Marine Gunner coming for him. But
oh my god. Yeah, that guy's a beast. +1 a wound on a flamer. Ooh.
No, man, he's causing mortal wounds if I wound you on a natural 4+. I have done that before.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because it's like a max of 3, right? And he's like, yeah, that's about average for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Gross.
Run it.
We also got blast weapons in this section, which we've seen before. If you shoot something with 6 or more models, you always get 3 attacks. At least if you shoot at something with 11, you make maximum.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This is what I wasn't expecting, right? I wasn't expecting blast weapons and big guns never tire to both like marry. Like, I don't know if they had a surplus of like lemon rust tank kits they need to sell.
Blast is almost, I think at this point, based on some of the rules that we've read so far, blast is almost a downside because you can't fire blast weapons with big guns never tire, right? So having a weapon be blast means that you should just never shoot it while you're engaged.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I still don't consider blast weapons a down. Like,
so the blast weapon list also spoiled today. I don't know if that's in this document too, but we were reading that today. And the first thing I looked was to make sure that bioplasma cannons on the exocrines did not become blast weapons, and they did not. Thank goodness. But so that thing is gonna absolutely destroy whatever touches it in melee, which is hilarious because like a Lehman Russ can't shoot his battle cannon in melee, but that exocrine sure frickin' can.
Yeah, I guess that's a whole new, like, I don't know, you charge things so you can have a shooting advantage. I mean, it makes sense. I had not considered it.
Well, yeah, you kind of want, I mean, you don't want things to charge you. Like, typically these tanks aren't doing anything in melee, and they don't want to get -1 to hit with their gun, but, like, if you do get engaged in melee, like somebody makes a long charge out of deep strike, which will happen a lot now, I think. You'll just kill them. It doesn't, you still get to shoot. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have anything else on these. Do you?
Nope. I don't think so. It looks like we have another. What is this? We have another addendum to the shooting phase here. That was put out of sequence. If you're shooting more than one ranged weapon at a target, then you
Nothing
must.
changed here, though, right? Like weapons can't split fire still.
Right. Yes. And it looks like if you have two guns with the same profile, you have to fast roll them now, and you have to shoot them before your other guns. It looks like is what it's saying. Yeah, if your unit is shooting more than one ranged weapon, and those weapons have different characteristics, after you resolve attacks with one of the weapons, resolve you. If you have any other weapons with the same characteristic profile, resolve those attacks before resolving any attacks against the target with a weapon that has a different characteristic profile. That's actually kind of a big deal. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of times when I was playing executioners, you would purposefully, instead of fast rolling, like it has like a twin heavy bolter and onslaught Gatling cannons all over it, right? And you would purposely split every single one of those off independently to make like your opponent's like dice rolling a little bit harder, and now you just can't do that. Like a lot of times you would you would shoot like the heavy bolter to try to ping a wound off something, then auto kill them with the first ignition off of the laser destroyer to deal automatic 3, and then like shoot them with the onslaught and try to do one more, and then do the same thing again. And you can't do that now. You just have to shoot the heavy bolter and the onslaught together.
Yeah, you lose some advantage there. It does streamline things, which I think if this edition can make the gameplay faster, that would be good. But we are definitely sacrificing some weird nuanced depth, right? We talked about in that some other regards too. But yeah, we'll get to that more later, I guess.
Cool. You can't shoot at things that are in melee with enemies. That hasn't changed. But I think the basic attacking hasn't changed, and looks like blast weapons are back. We get another page of blast weapons. That's fun. And now we're in the fight phase, maybe? Nope, we'll skip that. We'll go down to range weapons again. So range weapon types. We have assault. So it says if you're equipped really with assault weapons, you are still eligible to shoot in your shooting phase, even if you advanced. There you go. All right, our complaint has been dealt with. Never mind. Yeah, it could have been good too. I make it a little bit clearer, but there you go.
Yeah.
Heavy is the same. Pistol. Let's see if they change.
Well, the heavy's not the same, right? Heavy is if the firing
because it's in infantry. Yeah. Pistol's weird in 8th edition. Let's see if they changed it.
So the grenade is only one model can use a grenade when the unit shoots. So intercessors can take multiple grenade launchers. Can they still only make one attack with it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Why would I ever take more than one grenade launcher?
Because then you could pull the grenade launcher guy as a casualty, and then you have another one.
Or I could just not have a grenade launcher
or
guy.
You could just save a point. I don't know.
Just doesn't make sense.
So pistol, you can shoot when you're in engagement range. You must target the enemy unit that is within engagement range. And you can target even if other friendlies are in engagement range of it. And it can either shoot with pistols or other ranged weapons. You can't do both. So that actually is a change from 8th edition. 8th edition, you could firewall engagement, and you had to target the closest enemy unit. Now you can just shoot whatever's in melee with you. It doesn't matter what's closer. So if you're in melee with two things, you don't have to.
That makes sense.
Previously, you could block pistols by like basing somebody with like a Gretchen and then putting their character an inch away from them. And they could pit. They're within engagement range of both of them in 8th edition, but they could only shoot the Gretchen with the pistol. And now that you could just shoot whatever you want, which is good because that rule is dumb and confusing.
So next up, it bounces around a little bit here. I think we should actually skip a page and go to making attacks next, and then circle back.
Yeah, because this has wounds or hit roll modifiers in it, right?
Yeah, and
you want to talk about those?
Yeah. So the big change is we knew hit roll modifiers were coming, right? And pretty much what this says is a hit roll can only be modified by ±1, right? So If you have like -2 and +2, you come out to a 0, obviously. But at the end of the day, you can only get a 1 modifier either way. And the curveball of this is they did the same thing to wound modifications. So you can only end up with a wound modification of 1 as well.
Yeah, and as far as I know, that might have been spoiled elsewhere or mentioned somewhere. But as far as I know, that was a bit of a surprise. I think people expected wound rolls to be able to retain their modifiers, but nope, get out of here.
Yeah, it was not spoiled. I mean, not from a source that I know of, at least. I looked for it a lot because they were so specific with the hit roll modifiers being capped at 1, right? They kept saying hit rolls or modifiers are being capped. They never mentioned wound rolls. There was speculation in it, obviously, like in our private chats we've talked about everything, and now wound rolls are capped on the same thing, which is pretty crazy. Like the possessed bomb takes a hit here. I'm devastated emotionally and physically for all you possessed bomb players. I'm sorry. And some other things as well, but I really wasn't seeing the wound roll modifier come up. Can you think of other lists off the top of your head that are like? I mean, well, actually, yeah. I mean, Crucible of Battle and
Space Marines did it all the time. Yeah, both Salamanders and Imperial Fist could do it pretty easily. And Raven Guard, obviously.
Can do it.
So there's a bunch of, and then obviously Chaos, Possessed Bomb. Almost all of the Nurgle lists, Death Guard, usually played around with a lot of wound roll modification. That was kind of Nurgle's thing. That's all gone. Other than that, I don't know if there's too many wound roll shenanigans. Mostly it's hit rolls is what stuff mucks with, but off the top of
I forgot about Nurgle. Nurgle definitely takes a hit here. That kind of sucks. Death Guard was looking kind of good, and now they get like.
I think they're fine. I think they'll survive.
Yeah, lucky for Space Marines, we pretty much get another codex of releases, so I'm sure we'll survive.
Yes, yeah. Somehow you'll find a way.
Yeah. But it was unexpected, and it's a really big deal. And I think Trevi and I are both on the same. Like, I don't think this honestly needed to be addressed.
Yeah, I like that they've changed it so that a roll of a 6 automatically hits regardless of modifiers, right? I think that would have been enough. But modifying out of the realm of actually being attacked would have been good. Or was stupid. But I do like hit rolls a lot. Or I like modifiers a lot. I like comboing off things like that. I think it's cool, and I think it opens up lines of play that are interesting. But I mean, it's fine, I guess. It'll just make the game a little bit more boring, to be honest.
Yeah, it removes some depth from the game too, right?
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to.
And I think that's probably us talking as War Machine players, right? Because that's basically the core of War Machine, was playing with those, trying to maneuver the dice math in your favor. Because like almost everything in War Machine was a hit or a damage buff of some kind. But
there was, like you said, we just named a couple armies that have like part of their identity was associated with their wound manipulation or hit manipulation.
Right.
So it'll be interesting as they kind of readdress those identities and come up with other ways to make them in. The other thing that's important to point out is unmodified wound rolls of 6 now always wound as well.
Get out of here, unkillable smash cap.
He's not unkillable. He's just have a hard time killing
now. Yeah, I mean that's fair.
So that I actually think was a good change. The unkillable salamander chaplain or captain, he was pretty obnoxious.
Yeah, between the +2 toughness warlord trait, the forge master, and then 2 psychic powers, you can make him toughness 9 on a bike, and then you could give him -1 wound with the salamander mantle, and so even last cannons would be on 5s, right? The strength 9 going in would be 5s.
5s. Oh no, you're right. It'd be 5s. Yeah.
And then, but everything else would be 6s, or strength 4 could not wound him.
Or you get pushed off the chart. Yeah. But now, not being able to get pushed off the chart is good. So the unmodified of 6s are good. But again, we're simplifying. What we're doing is we're condensing the dice math. We're changing the standard probability of these things, the deviation. So I understand why they did it for simplicity's sake. At the same time, though, I personally like mod.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see where it ends up.
So there's a whole chart.
I think modifiers would have been fine if it +or- to 2, but I'll stop talking.
Yeah, that's probably fair. So there's very little that gets past +or- 2. So I think that is probably fair.
Right, and I think that's just a better safety net. You can have things like, okay, this faction can modify 1. Right? Anyway, you go.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. Like, I mean, Tyranids had a hit modification sub theme, right? We have the Spore Clouds mechanic, which you can stack with psychic powers and some relics, and you could get to -3 on some stuff. which was cool, and it was like kind of a cute way to play, but it was a little bit suboptimal. And I enjoyed it when it worked, but now it's just like you can't even try it, so why bother? Like throw your Venom Throps in the garbage, everybody. Which is a little upsetting.
Yeah, but there's a pretty nice chart. The chart doesn't really say anything that hasn't, right? But it just basically goes over.
Yeah, but it does talk about the timing, right? Which I think is pretty nice because the old rolls were a little bit weird in that, but it's a little bit more clear cut here, which I think is good.
Yeah, that's fair. They talk a little bit about allocating attacks. I don't see a change in this.
Yeah, that's just. I think it's a change in the verbiage of how saves are allocated. I don't think it's any different from 8th Ed.
Yep. So then they just talk about saving throws and then inflicting damage. I do want to point out that they don't limit saving throw modifications here.
I think that's true.
And I think that's interesting considering they put that restriction on hit and wound rolls.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're still okay with you getting
hypothetically
weird. +2 or +3 to your saving throw. I think the reason that they were okay with it is because they introduced terrain. Yeah, and terrain does a lot of
terrain also now changes your hit roll as well. So a lot of terrain will just override other hit roll modifiers because like dense terrain will do that, which we'll talk about later. That's been spoiled. I think we all know about that.
Again, like I said, I was just surprised they were willing to leave saving throws open.
Yeah, to me, there was something I agree with you.
Rubric Marine.
I guess maybe like they were worried that it would have been awkward because armor penetration. I mean, you could just say that you can modify the armor save,
negatively, but not...
the armor penetration is exempt from modifiers or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is strange though. I agree with you actually. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
that's all. Talk about charges.
We're going to skip inflicting damage. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, nothing has changed, right? If you fail your save, you take damage equal to the damage characteristic of the attack, and if you die, then you are dead and you're removed from the table.
Yeah, unless you're a Necron. Get into that next time.
Necron, you tip them over.
Charge phase. So what do we want to talk about in charge phase? This phase is dead, right?
Yeah, probably don't ever charge. Maybe a Smash Captain will charge one time with his 4+ invulnerable save Storm Shield.
Yeah, it's utter garbage. Get it out of here.
Get out of here. Rip all the Storm Shields off of your Space Marine captains.
You're telling me you can wound my captain on 6s and I only get a 4+ invuln? Yeah. This is
You don't
BS.
bounce like every las cannon forever. Only half of them.
Yeah. And they wound me more off. This is horrible. My back trash, everyone. Trash.
Yeah. So when you're charging, most of it hasn't changed. You select targets within 12 inches and you roll 2d6 to charge. And if
the big charging change, right, is one that's already been spoiled. Right, is that if you declare multiple targets in order for it to be a successful charge, you have to have the distance to hit every target.
Yeah,
which is huge.
Which is an unreasonable nerf, and I hate it.
We're going to see a lot more heroic interventions, is what I'm going to say, right? Because a lot of times, I'll take the 6-inch charge on the unit and I'll deck the 9 on the character in the back. But I can't do that anymore. So I just have to walk into this character's heroic intervention range, especially when we can combine that later on with the who can fight.
Imagine if there's a character in the front of the enemy unit, right? And you declare both, and it's like a 3 on the character and a 4 on the unit, and you roll you roll a 3, and you just stand there and get intervened.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen. Somebody's like, I'll declare those guys, and they're like, that's a 6-inch charge, right? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. Rolls a 5, and then the game's over. Cool. I was expecting a buff to charging based on that change that was spoiled. We didn't see the actual charge rules in the spoiler season, and there's nothing different. You roll 2d6, and that's how far you can move, and you have to be able to move to all your targets. You don't actually have to be able to move. You don't have to actually move to everyone you declared. You just have to be able to, which is super awkward. I don't like that terminology at all, but that's okay.
It just checks the distancing, right? It doesn't check, like Trevi said, is it possible for you to move them there?
No, it does. Right? Because you have to be able to end a charge move within coherency and engagement range in order to make the move. It does. It's not like roll 2d6 and you can charge things within that distance. It says 2d6 is the distance that you charge, and if that
is possible, then the charge is successful.
Right.
That's going to be some interesting proxying then.
Yeah, so you're going to have to it's just confusing and stupid. There's so many times where you declare things
Well, it gets
randomly,
weird if you
and
charge
then
things left
it
and
turns
right.
out you couldn't. Yeah, it turns out you couldn't have made that charge, but it didn't matter in 8th edition. Like, who cares? Like, oh, I declared that guy like 12 inches away, I guess, but it turns out like I would be in a wall if I made that charge. So we'll move to this other thing I declared. But in 9th, if you make that declaration, you just fail because you can't stand inside that wall or whatever.
Yeah. So
It's
moral of
really
the story is
stupid.
you're going to take safer, fewer target charges is what's going to
Yeah, I
happen.
mean,
And I think
I
heroic
think
intervention is going to be a
moral of the
bigger part of
story
the
is that
game. Right?
you will not be charging
You
based
will
on.
be with heroic interventions on your opponent's turn.
All right, well, let's talk about those because I have not read that rule yet. Are we?
Well, we have to scroll way back up.
Oh yeah, back up. Ugh.
Oh, we didn't talk about invulnerable saves either.
Yeah, they didn't change. Right. Where's the intervention rules?
Above pistols.
I went too far.
God.
God. Oh, here we go. Nope. Just kidding. I'm done.
No, it's above big games never tire the second time.
Heroic interventions. We did it.
So there, like I said, there's a chart here that breaks down the charges, declare target, roll dice, if insufficient, blah, blah, blah. If charge is successful, move models. Cannot make a charge move with engagement. Yeah, okay.
So heroic intervention. Your opponent can now select an eligible character from the army to perform a heroic intervention. Does that mean it's a once per turn? Who knows?
Sorry, I'm reading it. I don't know.
Let's see. So they have to not be in engagement range of enemy units. Oh, we're doing it, boys. We're fixing the rules. I love it. And it has to be within 3 inches horizontally, 5 inches vertically. That's cool.
And they answer your question in the next sentence.
Okay, cool. Which is
after finish
you can
performing
then
a
select another one.
Character,
right.
you can select another.
And so on until you're done. So then, when you perform a heroic intervention, you move 3 inches and must finish the heroic intervention move closer to the closest enemy model. It must finish any move in coherency. All right.
So is verticality measured from any part of model to any part of model?
I haven't seen a measuring distances portion in this rule set here, but in 8th edition, you measure from the bases.
Okay, so yeah, I just have not seen that in 9th yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen that rule yet, but maybe it's like buried in the bottom of the thing.
Yeah, or maybe
who knows, or maybe they just didn't take a picture of it. Well, we'll have to see on June 25th. So cool. So that's it. Basically, you can't do it while you're in melee now. That's the difference. And you can go vertically, but you can still only move 3 inches. So that's weird, right? You can be 5 inches vertically from something, and then just not be able. You can technically declare an intervention, and then not just not be able to move it.
Yeah, okay. Maybe there are steps, man. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Who knows?
And then if we scroll down a little bit, we get to the charging units fight first, right? That's where we want to go next?
Yes. So that is down into the fight phase, right?
Yep. So charging unit fight first. Unit that made a charge move this turn. Fight before all other units.
Yep. So the big change here, right, is that we did see previewed, is that your opponent gets to pick the first non-charger to fight with.
Mm-hmm. Which is huge.
That's an enormous deal.
Close combat's just getting hit left and right.
I think it's actually a bonus for close combat armies because engaging into the enemy is a little bit more beneficial for you. It's because, like, for example, if I go and I wrap something, and I somehow don't get unwrapped, like magically my opponent forgets or is out of CP or something.
They were out of CPs and didn't generate enough?
Yeah, okay. They just, maybe they had a stroke.
This world you live in sounds fantastic.
No, it sounds great. You get to punch me in your fight. You know, I get to charge, I punch with one dude, I wrap you. You get to fight back and you punch me in your fight phase, then in my fight phase, then immediately in your fight phase, I fight again and I kill you before you get to swing the second time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't charged by anything else, and if they chose not to spend CPs to go away, you were correct. You could kill their squad. Yep.
Right. So it's strictly that specific situation is strictly better than 8th edition, right?
You're right. You're right. Close combat's back in the table, boys.
Ignoring all of the other changes to charging and the fight phase rules, that's better than it was in 8th for the charging unit.
Right? Yeah, and I do think, to your point, there's going to be fewer sustained combats, right? So I get what you're saying. And I guess it's another. Go ahead.
I found another page of charging rules. Buried in here somewhere. Yeah. There's a page about charging over terrain, which looks like it's the same as moving over terrain. It is below the morale phase.
Of course. Hey,
where you'd put it. You can move over. It basically looks like it's the same verbiage as the movement phase rolls, but when you have the fly keyword, you may be moved across other models, and you may move over terrain features, just like any other model.
Okay. Good to know. Do you want to cover Overwatch now?
Sorry, okay. I got a little excited because it says fly models move over terrain when they make a charge move, but there's a portion that's blanked out, which is by glare, which says they move over terrain like any other model when they make a charge move. So it's the same as 8th. You lose fly when you charge, except for moving over dudes. You can ninja vault over people, but that's it.
Oh yeah, that last statement's really misleading.
Yeah, I don't.
First half of it's just like you ignore terrain. You're like, whoa, and the second half is like, oh no, you don't.
Right. I mean, it's fine, right? Except that it's hard to see the like any other model on this picture. So the brief skimming was very confusing. Sorry, I apologize that it took me so long to work that out. Are we talking about Overwatch? Is that what you said?
Yeah, let's hit Overwatch.
Cool. What are we saying about Overwatch?
Tau like Overwatch.
Yeah. So that was a spoiled piece of the 9th ed FAQ, right? That stuff with greater good would basically ignore the Overwatch rule. You'd be able to use the Overwatch thing unlimited times. Or I guess you aren't using a stratagem. You just get to Overwatch every time somebody charges you for free.
Yeah.
But the difference is that the only way to Overwatch is through a rule. A rule has to give you the ability to Overwatch, and the most common one is the 1CP strat that has been spoiled.
Yep, and worth mentioning now again that strats can still only be used once per phase.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. No, it's a fine change. Overwatch was very powerful. Definitely hits some units harder than others. And what we really don't know, we don't know we don't know who's getting the Overwatch.
Right. Yeah, annoyingly for all of my opponents on stream, I'm now calling out every time I would Overwatch for freezies when I wouldn't spend a CP on it, and we get to get a running tally of how many things I kill for no reason, which turns out a lot when you think about it like that. You get a lot of random models that die to auto guns and stuff that probably should not be dying.
No, I mean chapter masters in Overwatch were always great, and then I do love flamers, and we'll see if I love flamers enough because. Flamers rarely get a lot of work in the shooting phase for me, but for Overwatch, they're always great.
Yep. We're over in the fight phase, right? So down, let's see, below the morale phase stuff again. There's more fight phase things.
Yep, consolidating, right?
Yep. So looks like there's a pile in section missing, unless piling in is no longer a thing that you do. I think there might be a page missing in here, to be honest. Charging over terrain, flying when charging, fight phase.
I think it's in the area where they talk about who can fight.
Where is that?
Well, that's a great question. I am looking for it.
Super cool. Oh, here we go. I think I found it. It is below the locked in combat stuff in the shooting phase.
So we're scrolling back up?
Yeah, we're back up way far. It says charging units fight first. Fair enough. When you fight, you first pile in, then make attacks, then consolidate. So exactly the same as 8th edition. When you pile in, you move 3 inches, and you have to finish closer to the closest enemy model. Exactly the same. A model that is already touching an enemy model cannot move, but still counts as having piled in. Okay, that's nice for them to spell that out, I think. Then you make your attacks, which
Which models can fight, Trippy?
Yeah, which... Oh, my God. So models can only fight if you're within 1/2 of another model in your unit that is within 1/2 of an enemy. 1/2 of 1 inch. So exactly half of the distance in 8th edition.
Yeah, so either within engagement range, and engagement range was 1 inch, correct? They verified that?
Yeah.
So you can fight if you are within 1 inch of an enemy unit, or if you are within half an inch of another model from their own
Did
unit.
they clarify what engagement range is?
I thought they did one of the things.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Okay, cool.
We're going with it. I can be wrong on you.
If you're within an inch or... Oh, that's confusing and stupid. What? Let's see if I can find an engagement range clarification here. So if it's probably, based on this, maybe that it's within an inch or within half of an inch of a half of an inch. Ooh.
Yeah, it's not great. It changes the amount of ranks you can get in something, right?
Yeah, I mean it's like a turbo nerf, right? It's like hardcore. I think it doesn't change for 32 mil bases that much. It's just kind of harder to squeeze in. But 25 mil base fighters like basically are useless now.
Yeah, I mean assault intercessors still seem fun.
Yeah, assault intercessors will be fine for cheaper than a regular intercessor too, so that's fine.
And they're troops.
Yeah, that's a surprise. The Reavers were getting a little upset that they were getting on their territory. Get off of here. We're the fast attack boys. Get out of here.
Cool. I'll never take you again.
Yeah. Okay, buddy.
See you later.
Yeah. So within half an inch of another model that is so engagement range must be 1 inch, right?
Yeah.
But that's so bizarre. Like, what a weird change. Why wouldn't they make it within half of an inch of somebody with an engagement range? Like, why is the half an inch? Why is there a half inch requisite on the half inch? A second rank rule.
That's 42.
Jesus. So yeah. So to clarify, right? This means that if you're basically never going to get more than 2 ranks deep in almost any situation that I can think of, when you're mathematically, maybe it's possible with 25 mil bases to get a 3rd rank if you're perfectly serried, but I have no idea if that's true. But basically, no unit, past the 3rd rank, I think will realistically ever be able to fight, because either you're within you're half of an inch is too small for any base to fit in, and so you can't really reach over somebody in attack. Whereas in 8th edition, if you were a 25 millimeter base and your first rank of fighters was base to base with the enemy, you could chain 4 ranks back. This is like totally devastating to melee units. I have no idea how you're supposed to make melee functional in this edition. Holy crap.
It's weird. I mean, it's you want small, hard-hitting units that you don't plan on. You're not wrapping anymore, right? You're not sending in a squad of gene stealers, right? You're sending in Swarmy. You're sending in I can't think of a 3-person melee.
Blade Guard veterans, dude.
There you go. Right.
Got them.
There's bikers, outriders, whatever they call those things. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think you're sending in, right? I'm not.
Right. But
I'm not sending in 10-person assault intercessors. I'm probably sending in 5.
Even then, you can imagine situations where you make it impossible for somebody to fight, right? Like, if you're not already within half of an inch of an enemy and I engage a unit of 40 millimeter base like Blade Guard vets, I can easily make it so that the back rank cannot fight in this situation if they're not already within half inch of the front rank. Like, you just have to put somebody behind them who's just outside engagement range, and then they.
You can do some funny stuff for sure.
It's ugh. What the heck? Anyway, we get blast weapons again. Oh no, we already talked about this.
I think we're ready to jump to morale, right?
Oh my god. Yep, let's talk about morale. So, some big changes here as well. Starting with the player whose turn is taking place, you alternate taking morale checks. And there's about 6 inches of blank page. And then we go back to charging. All right, so cool. Here we go. So I think the morale check itself is basically the same as in 8th edition. You roll a d6, add the number of models from that you lost that turn, and then subtract the leadership characteristic, essentially. A roll of 1 always passes now, so that's good. There's a little bit more stability there. And if you exceed your leadership value with the D6 plus models destroyed, then you fail the check. And you go to a second check to see if anybody actually runs away. The second check is called a combat attrition test, so totally new mechanic. You roll a dice for everyone in the unit, and you get -1 if you are below half strength, and on rolls of 1, the model runs away. So if you're below half, a model rolls of 1 or 2 models will flee, but if you're at full strength, you just run away on a 1. This is just like, it seems really clunky to me. So somebody, I remember when this got spoiled, obviously this has been spoiled already. When this got spoiled, somebody was celebrating like, yeah, Moral's going to be so much easier to resolve. And I'm like, how? It's literally twice as many dice to roll. You have 2 rolls, and one of them, like if you lose 1 model, out of a 30-man cultist unit or something, and then you run, you have to roll 30 dice now to resolve the actual morale check. It seems very silly, and I don't like it, but it is what it is. I don't think it changes the math significantly of how many people run away. And in a lot of cases, it will mean that less people run away. So I guess that's nice.
But in some cases, it makes it so the entire unit can run away, right? We can go back to that cultist example, right? I have 30 cultists, which cost a lot of points right now.
Yeah.
One dies. We take a morale test, right? We fail the morale test. It is theoretically possible for that entire squad to run away.
It is true.
The odds of that, infinitesimally low. But it is possible now, where in the previous edition, that was not even an option, correct?
Right. Yeah. You could only ever lose, like, basically 1 more.
Correct, right? So,
yeah.
And then even just... Yeah, is it likely? No, but in that situation, right, we're losing 5 models where previously we were at tops losing 1. So there's just... It's an interesting thing. I don't know why they thought this was needed. Like, I don't really get it. I guess the other side, like the tryhard in me, appreciated the simpler math of like, okay, the odds of that squad running away are really high. I'm not going to shoot that squad.
Right.
And now that's kind of gone, right? And it's replaced with this attrition test. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I think it's another thing that punishes large squads. It just, I don't know why you'd take big blobs in this edition.
Well, it does and it doesn't, right? Because like if you lose, let's say you have a 30-man and you lose 10 of them. Mm-hmm. Now, realistically, you lose like maybe 3. Like mathematically, you should lose like 3-ish more. Whereas in 8th, you lose like 15.
Sure, that's fair. Right. The flip side is like you have that high variance if they just put a couple shots into you. Right?
Yeah, so I think
there are reasons to make your opponent take as many morale checks as possible.
Right.
Like where you're literally like, cool, I'm going to kill 2 models out of that orc squad.
Yeah.
Why? I want you to take an attrition.
Right. Yeah. Like your Thunderfire will just send a shot over, like to kill 1 dude, and you'll be like, all right, well, take the leadership.
Correct.
There,
right. There's weird like gamey things where you're doing there. Right.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to shoot that squad with 2 bolt rifles.
And I think the downside at that point is going to be that it just extends the game, which they made a lot of changes to make the game quicker, and this is sort of flabbergasting to me that they felt that this was necessary. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. I think coming at it from the example where you lose 1 model and then have to take the test and fail it, I think is a little bit too skewed. Mathematically, I think most of the time it will mean that your units will take less casualties. There's just like you said, there's just the chance that they'll take more, like once in a while.
Correct. On average, we're losing fewer models, right?
Yeah.
But the extremes are way more extreme, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. Next up, we have the unit coherency check. That we have seen spoiled. If you're out of coherency, you die until the unit is back in coherency. So the thing that was a lot of people were sort of theorizing the formation would be is that you have a strung unit so that you have a single file rank, and then the ends you can triangle up to allow you to be in coherency. But the downside of that is that as soon as you lose a single model, like 25 models die out of that unit to the coherency check. Realistically, you probably, if you're running a big unit that's greater than 6, I think is what their special coherency rules are, you just put your models like all within an inch or so of each other, and then at that point you can never be out of coherency if you're taking models from the ends. So it just makes stringing a little bit more difficult. I think it's fine. It's whatever. Having an actual detriment to losing models out of coherency, I think, is good. But there's going to be some gotcha moments where like your opponent removes the wrong model, and at the end of the turn you can be like, that unit's dead.
Yeah, that's the big thing that I want to hit on is you need to actually think about what models you're pulling when you're forced to take casualties, right? A lot of times you can be super sloppy and just like, yep, just start pulling models off the table. And with the new unit coherency check, that can literally cost you an entire.
Right. Yeah, it can cost you, at the very least costs you down to 5 models, because at that point then they revert to the other coherency rule where they just have to, basically the 8th edition coherency rule, where they just have to be within 8 inches or 2 inches of each other.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right.
So most of, you probably won't lose more than those last 5 to the coherency check, but if you had one model out of coherency, about a 30-man unit, and you lose 25 of them, like the game's over a lot of times. So it's gonna, I think it's fine from a mechanical standpoint, but I think the actual gameplay could be awkward if you run into a situation like that. Your opponent's like, oh, I'll lose this guy because he's not the special weapon guy. And you're like, buddy, like you're about to lose 5 more guys because of that. That's going to happen. And especially while people are getting used to it, which I think will be unfortunate.
Yeah, so next thing after that is, of course, more melee attack rules, but I don't think we need to cover them.
Yes, we've harped on how useless melee weapons are in the game now. So you can just forget all of your melee stats on your units models and your models, and then you're good to go. Just remember that they can. If you're a tank, you can shoot and you're in melee, and that's all you need to know.
We're at a point in the podcast where I would probably edit this out. I don't think we should talk about missions. I'm fine talking about objective markers, and then I think we should just talk about terrain and wrap this up.
Yeah. So we should note that there is a mission section. They do specify that they are. Oh, there's only one mission.
No, there's more. Keep scrolling.
Oh, are they? Where are they?
I don't know. Way towards the end, there's more missions. Like the last page, the second, the third to last, and the fourth to last page of missions.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, okay. So there's the only war mission. Is that different? It looks like it's different.
It is. Right? Yeah, it is. I don't want to talk about missions.
Okay.
I don't think there's any point in talking.
So
about
yeah, we should know it looks like that's the open play mission. That's what they had it when I remember when 8th edition launched and they gave out the little booklets. I took a demo game and they had like one scenario that you would just play and that like was the same every time. That was what it looks like this only war is. So we don't have to talk about that. We can just go down to. Should we go down to building an army?
I think it's worth taking a minute to talk about the objective markers just to solidify that they don't.
Oh yeah.
Right. 40 millimeter round marker, models in range of the objective marker if just 3 inches vertically, or 3 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically.
Oh, that's actually a big change.
That is a big change for the verticality rules, but it makes sense with the kind of terrain that they want to be introducing into the game. So I think it's nice to just toss it there.
And also I like that is just how like that's the template now, right? Like almost everything checks 3 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically for everything.
Yeah, and then it just talks about who controls it as most models, and then they hit on objective security. So.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
I just think that's worth mentioning. I don't want to go into details about the missions because we just don't have a lot of them. And like Trevi said, the missions are going to change a lot. Point values and creating an army are important, though.
Somebody texted me just on the objective thing. Somebody texted me as soon as this league came out, and they're like, "We won the center measuring versus the edge measuring battle because ITC measured from the edge, and then the book missions measured from the center, and a lot of European events measured from the center. And it was just like always this like tiny awkward thing. It didn't matter."
He just signaled measured from the center, which was just annoying.
That is annoying. But there you go, 40 millimeter marker. Get them. Go get your poker chips ready, everybody.
Yeah, poker chips. Battleforge's Armies is next, I think, right? And these have already been released, spoiled at least, right? Where you're generating that command point where we already talked about, and we just talked about the command points per power level, right? 3, 6, 12, 18, respectively, for 500, 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 point games.
Mm-hmm. Looks like they have they've specified unit leaders. There's a unit champion rule now, which is basically a model in the unit, a single model in the unit that has a separate profile. So a sergeant, basically. I wonder if there will be rules that reference unit champions in the future. That would be cool.
Yeah, I could see that being like one of their secondaries, one of their mission things. I could see that a lot, right? They talk about understrength squads right here, right?
Yes.
I don't really understand the ramifications of this, but it's just a unit that starts the battle with fewer
Yeah,
models than the minimum.
usually if you have lower than the minimum, you're not battle
Oh, are these
forged. That was what
crusade
it was
things? I
in.
think these are crusade things.
Well, no, that was a rule in 8th edition too. But if you had any understrength units, you weren't battle forged, so you lost all your stratagems and stuff.
Yeah, okay. Just don't do that.
Yeah. Yep. So we've seen the CP pages and everything like that. There is.
There's
looks
a page
like-
about refunding command points and gaining command points. I think that's important. It does specify
Yeah.
that you can only gain 1 CP per battle round. Gain or refund 1 CP per battle round. So I don't believe that was in 8th edition.
Yeah, it was. That was a tactical restraint rule that was
Okay.
errated in. But it used to have a clause that said stratagems were exempt. Let's take a look if that's in there. A player can only gain or win from 1 CP per battle round as a result of such rolls, regardless of the source. CPs that are spent on stratagems can never be refunded. The limit of gaining or refunding 1 CP per battle round does not apply to the Battleforge CP bonus, nor any CPs gained by mission special rules that instruct players to gain CPs in the command phase. That's weird. That's a direct nerf to my army, so sick. Used to be that stratagems would be exempt from the 1 CP rule, and that doesn't look like that's true here. So if you have, for example, the assassin stratagem that says if you kill the opponent's warlord, you gain D3 CPs, you just don't. You gain 1. That's dumb.
It's like D3. It's like D3 minus D3 to a minimum maximum of 1. That's still D3. Don't worry about it. You're fine.
No,
just don't think about the math.
It's always 1.
Fine.
So the feeder tender stratagem in Tyranids doesn't do anything. You spend a CP, you gain a CP back. Sick.
Oh, that's good though. That's real good.
Thanks, G-Dub.
Yeah.
I would love to get a CP for the cost of 1 CP. You could just do that already.
Yeah, and then I could possibly get like a CP refund.
Yeah, you could get a CP refund off me using a CP. Oh my god, damn.
Maybe
well,
they
that
specifically address that because that does seem silly.
Yeah, we'll find out in the erratas.
Yeah, we find out factions and army factions next. I don't think there's any changes here.
Yeah, also like half of it is illegible, so I have no idea if that matters.
Yeah, we're just gonna skip that.
Yep.
Detachments is worth talking about, though, right?
Yes, indeed.
They did leak this, I believe, right? But it caps the number of detachments you can see per size of the battle.
Yep, that's cool. So Strike Force is the normal game size, right? That's the 2,000 points. And we're at 3 detachments, so the same as normal. But now, if you play smaller point sizes in that incursion level, you're down to 2, which is, I think, pretty interesting. I don't know if it changes list building at that point size a lot, because I don't do a lot. I usually play 2,000. But there you go. Cool beans.
Yeah. Pretty standard stuff after that, right? We have battlefield roll slots. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Dedicated transports. I think it's important they're limiting transports to infantry squad now, which is pretty cool.
Yep, and that's something that we saw spoiled as well.
Just
means you can't buy transports for tanks, which is good. We talk about all of the different kinds of detachments. We'll do a quick summary on these. These are pretty self-explanatory. Patrol detachment costs 2 CP, and it looks like one of the most powerful types of detachments. It gives you the least slots, but you have flexibility over all of the slots. You just have to bring 1 troops and 1 HQ in there. But if you want to bring in a sort of a sub-faction, you only spend 2 CP to bring it in, and you just need 1 HQ and some random troops, like if you want to bring in your 2 Imperial Fist Thunderfires or whatever. I think that's a huge deal, and that's going to be very popular. Battalion detachment costs you 3. It has the same requirements that it has in 8th Ed, so I think for the most part, a lot of armies will try to be switching to single battalion, because you get to put your warlord in it, get the CP refunded, and you get to start at the full 12, which will be very good. Brigade, it costs you 4. And has all of the same requirements that it did in 8th, but there's no real benefit to taking it, except that you just get more slots. If you really want to spam stuff, then you can try to fit into a brigade, but I actually think we see a lot less brigades in 9th Ed. There's not really a reason to push for them.
Yeah, I just don't see the benefit of pushing for the brigade, right? The theoretical benefit of the brigade as opposed to double battalions, right? You have those additional CPs, because you didn't have to buy 2 battalions, but like 6 troops, mandatory 3 elites, 3 fast, 3 heavies is pretty rough.
Right. Yeah. It seems a lot of times you'll spend like 200 to 300 extra points to fill in the brigade, which was worth it to get that extra, the extra 2-ish
For the
CPs that you would
CPs.
be getting. But now
Yeah.
it's like whatever. I'll just take
Yeah, I mean,
those normally. If you're like Imperial Guard may still do it because like the random Sentinels and Mortar teams were still useful that you were taking because of that. But otherwise, like I hardly see anybody I think trying to push for a brigade.
yeah, I'm not excited about taking more troops from what I've seen so far.
Right. Yeah. Um.
A couple
Uh,
other weirder detachments as well, there, Trevi.
yeah. So the more specialized detachments looks like have a universal cost of 3 CP, which is fine. Looks like they're basically exactly the same as they were in 8th. Otherwise, you have to take 1 HQ and 3 of whatever the specialist slot that or battlefield role that you're trying to squeeze in there is. But it's at the cost of 3 CP. Again, I think we see a lot of these subsumed by patrol detachments. You lose that 1 extra slot in each of those specialist slots, and you have the 1 troops requirement, but you save 1 CP to do that. So I
Well,
think
you lose a
that's
lot
fine.
of spots, right? Patrol is up to 2, right? And Vanguard is mandatory 3 to 6. Or any of the specialized detachments are 3 to 6.
Or 3 to 6 on whichever specific one that you're looking for. Yeah, yeah. So you lose
Correct.
a
Yeah.
bunch of slots on that 1 slot, but you also have a CP.
Yeah. No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
So that's good. If you're trying to fit the 3rd Thunderfire cannon, you probably still take this, but in that Imperial Fist detachment. But otherwise, whatever. Supreme Command got a big, huge change, which I think I actually love. So it looks like HQ slots are trying to limit a little bit more, which is good. Hopefully, we see less of like the random Smash Captain sort of character spam that we have in 8th. Supreme Command now gives you but +1 extra slot, either Lord of War or HQ. And if you include a Warlord that is a Primarch, a Demon Primarch, or a new keyword, Supreme Commander, then you get a bunch of extra CP back for 0 CP. Otherwise, the detachment itself is 0 CP, but you can only include those 3 keywords in it. So it's basically there. I imagine that this is going to be for like your big punchy characters, so like Gazgul Thraka and the Swarm Lord and Belisarius Call and like all those big, huge kind of faction leaders will get that Supreme Commander keyword eroded in. And otherwise, this detachment is not useful.
Yeah, I mean, functionally, we talked about it before, right? It's an additional HQ spot is functionally.
Right. It'll give you 1 HQ spot for that. I think especially for Lord of War, like trying to fit Magnus or Mortarion or something into your army otherwise would be hard. And the benefit is that it allows you to essentially refund the CP for one of your other detachments. So you don't, because you have to have the Warlord in this detachment, which would normally give you no benefit, you get to get your CP back for a different one. So
Yeah,
you'll
it
net
doesn't.
+1 slot, basically.
Yeah, that's what you're getting. There's no CP gain here.
Yep.
So
Um, the
super heavies, which look expensive to say nothing else, right?
they do. Yeah, so to include the detachment, you spend 3 or 6. If you spend 3, you can't put is that right? Oh, no, you can't put Titanic units in it. So you have to spend 6 CP to get 3 super heavies into your list. There's no command benefits for it. So it sounds to me, unless there was something else spoiled that I don't know, if you're playing knights, then the command benefit usually is that if your warlord's in that detachment, you get to refund the CP. But is that true?
Get got.
Oh, interesting. Actually, something I just noticed: the specialist detachment, so Vanguard, Spearhead, Outrider, do not refund CPs if your warlord's in them. Only patrol, battalion, and brigade do.
Yeah, sorry. I guess we blipped over that. They are secondary attachments. You are not playing with one of those only. Well, I guess
Right.
you could.
Yeah, you could, but you want to try to fit one of the other ones in. So yeah, that screws the super heavy focused factions really hard because they have to spend 6 CP to bring their stuff. Ugh. And they don't get it
Yeah.
back. Ooh. The super heavy auxiliary's back. It costs 3 CP and doesn't give you any back, so that's expensive. Oops.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness to that though, I think a lot of the super heavy stuff is going to be really strong in this edition. So I don't know if I wonder if they're trying to sort of proactively balance for that. Now that sort of all your stuff can shoot in melee without penalty automatically, and stuff like that, I think was going to be a big deal. Like if you're
Yeah,
taking
it's
Bane
hard to
Blades, they can
evaluate
shoot
that,
at whatever, you know, or Bane Blade equivalents, like they can shoot at whatever they're in melee with already. And I think just in general, it seems to me like it's going to be more focused on the edition's more focused on armored combat, and I think those the big heavy stuff gets better the more tanks are on the table they can shoot at.
Yeah, that's
So
fair. That's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
It'll be interesting. What fortification network's up next? Cool. You're never going to use
Gross.
this.
Yep. Get that out of there.
My favorite detachment, the auxiliary support detachment.
It gives you it refunds its own CP at least. Basically automatically. It just has to be the same faction as your Warlords detachment.
Oh, we're talking about the fortification network?
Yeah. So at least it doesn't cost CP anymore. That's nice. But it still costs you a detachment slot, which is a lot of times really gross.
And the auxiliary support detachment. Is this also your favorite detachment, Trevi?
What's that?
Is this also your favorite detachment?
That is not my favorite. Nope. But I have used it one time in 8th edition, but now it costs 2 CP instead of 1, so less good. And you get 1 of any slot, so it's okay. It's usually if you want to bring like a character from out of faction, you don't want to bring anything else with them, but I mean, I guess it's the same cost as a patrol, so if you don't want to take a troop's choice, you can just do it for freezies. That's fine.
Next up, they talk about stratagem. I don't think there's anything else we can talk about with the.
No, and most of this has been spoiled. Just the specifics of the different detachments are new, so I don't think there's much else we need to talk about there.
I don't even really want to talk about stratagems. Basically, nothing changed.
Yeah, you can only use them once per phase, and you get CPs and stuff. Exciting. Terrain. This is the big change, I think. The flagship change that everyone was excited about in 9th edition.
I guess let's circle back to stratagems real quick. There are some additional core stratagems. We've talked about that right there. The weird cut them down, the command reroll, emergency disembarking for the transport exploding, firing Overwatch, counteroffensive, insane bravery, and desperate breakout. We knew about all those. We don't need to talk about them. Just, I guess that is worth mentioning.
Yep. Yeah, they still exist. Although it is important to mention that command reroll has been tightened up a little bit. It specifies what you can spend it on. It's not any single dice roll. It's specifically damage, saving throw, advance, charge, psychic test, deny, or the number of attacks made by a weapon. Big one here is like sort of mortal wound infliction is not in there, so you can't like reroll a smite, for example. You also cannot reroll if your vehicle explodes, which I am not in favor of. But let's lose games to vehicles exploding, I guess. That's fun.
Before we talk about terrain, since this document set up fantastic, it does talk about aircrafts in strategic reserve. And it says if the Army's battle for its aircraft can move off the battlefield edge and be placed into strategic reserve.
Cool. So that probably requires you to make your minimum movement, though. So you can move off of the edge, but if you are trapped up against the edge and can't do your minimum movement to get off, then
if an army is battle forged and an aircraft cannot make its minimum move, is placed into strategic reserve.
Oh,
so that's what we're expecting. Okay, that's the rule that prevents aircraft from being exploded. Which is what I thought was happening this edition, and then was confused because the rules were funny. But there it is, right there. So there we go.
Yeah,
it's a callback like 60 minutes ago.
At that point, I think we're just gonna wrap it up. We'll talk about terrain in a future video so we can cover it more comprehensively. And the same with missions, I guess. There are missions here, and it seems like they're a little disjointed, and we don't really know what the deal with those are. So we'll that's it for basically the core rules, and then we'll have terrain in another video shortly.
Yes, there's some pretty cool stuff in there. I'm still pretty excited about 9th. There's definitely a change. It's going to change the kind of armies we play. And we obviously have some opinions. We talked about melee and what melee is going to shift to. Transports look really strong. So,
sorry, what were you talking about?
What
were you talking about? The M word?
Melee.
What is that?
Melee? Yeah. It's a French woman I met in high school.
Melee. It's interesting. It'd be cool if there was like some sort of way to damage models without shooting them or psychic phase, but who knows? Maybe in 10th edition we'll get something like that. Like, what if you could hit somebody with a sword or something? That'd be cool.
No. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Why are we hitting people's swords in the year 40,000?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all you need to do is shoot people. That's fair.
Yeah, exactly. You're ruining my immersion.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching this hot takes video from Tsung and I. Really appreciate you checking it out. And that's going to be it for today. We'll have another video covering the rest of this leaked document shortly. So stay tuned for that and have a good one. Keep it classy, folks.